This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's kind of gray and gloomy out right now, but I'm sure it'll become beautiful later on. They tend to do those things. Days, yeah. So how's everybody doing? And who's all joining me before I get into today's wonderful topic? Because I can't wait. I had to do a lot of editing on this one to take out a bunch of superfluous stuff. I'll talk about that momentarily. Molly Okami, good morning. Noah Sencio, good morning. Keeverdam, good morning. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for helpfully providing the links to the GoFundMes for our friends Moonshock, Natalie, Angela Ariaga, James Colley, and Rhonda. If you guys have the opportunity, please take a look at those. If you can donate, please do so. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam. As always, who else is here? Mike R., good morning. Kiro Soldier, good morning. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Scribe, I'm an English major, not a cartographer, light. It's true. I'm like Bones McCoy in that way, I suppose. Derek LaRue, holy cats. Thank you, Derek, so much, as always, for your continued generosity and support. Really do appreciate it. Remember, guys, you can now like super chats in the chat to show your appreciation for people's generosity. And I appreciate that too, and I try to do that as well. So thank you so much, Derek. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you enjoy the show. Some Namnyon Nation, good morning. Shadowclaw, good morning. Who else is here? Anybody else? Scrolling. Bold sign, good morning. Thumbnail looks like a horror movie. Well, I might have, put an inside joke there to War of the Worlds. Because when I saw that the title of this thing included the words war and the Council on World Affairs, I'm just being a smart aleck. That's all. Rib Rascal, good morning. Let's see who else here. JB, good morning to you. Funtime Bats, good morning. Spoonie the Rebel, good morning. Ercole Di Stefano, good morning. Simon Willikins, good morning. Robert Pincus, good morning. TC Lachance, good morning. Renovatio, good morning. And Resolute Germ, good morning. Is there a dislike button for super chats yet? I think you have to ask Elon Musk about that or something. I suppose maybe they don't want to discourage people from donating. Maybe that's it. I don't know. In a democratic society, there probably should be a dislike button for super chats. But maybe that's just in the next gen. Anyway, so today I was searching around the interwebs for something new and exciting in regards to the wonderful world of the flailing apparatus that is D.E.I. And I came across this, which sounded all very official. Banning diversity, the war on D.E.I. from the Council on World Affairs. I was like, woo, the Council on World Affairs. Sounds fancy. So I decided to take a brief look, and I was not disappointed. I haven't watched it yet in full, just the opening few minutes, because I assumed on something like this, there might be some extraneous stuff at the beginning that I might need to cut out. And there was. There was some sort of programmatical stuff. And then there was, and I apologize for this, I did cut out the relatively lengthy land acknowledgement. There was a very detailed, very sincere land acknowledgement that went on for several minutes that I cut out because it went on for several minutes and it wasn't germane to the main discussion, as far as I could tell. And yet our speakers are still sitting on the stolen land that they're complaining about and making a career out of what they're doing anyway. So, it was all very sincere, I'm sure. Other than that, a few little edits here and there. You'll see some jumps, but after about 3 minutes, I think we go off into the main subject. So yes, the war on DEI. What is the war on DEI? Well, it is the long belated backlash and, I guess, revelation to most of the public that diversity, equity, and inclusion is really just systemic racism. It is institutionalized discrimination. That's what it is. And yet the purveyors of it, the advocates for it, keep flailing about trying to justify and rationalize everything that they're doing as a good thing. It's really good, guys. We swears it's really good. And they're coming up with less and less results and returns as things proceed. So, the Council on World Affairs. I don't believe I've ever looked at anything from this organization before. I'm sure it'll be very, very interesting. And this is, I believe this took place on April 11th. So it's about as fresh a take on the whole DEI situation as you could ask for. And so with that, let's start off with a few seconds for a sound test. Now, the whole thing goes on for over an hour. I'm only going to be going for about an hour and a half in real time, unless something really compels me to continue. And thereafter, I'll have to decide if it's worth doing a part 2 or a continuation later on, but we'll see. So all that being said, let's start off. You guys tell me if you can hear it. I did boost the sound because it was a little quiet. Hopefully it's audible now.
Welcome again to our presentation. My name is Alphonse Keesley, C.W.A, Conference on World Affairs board member as well as program committee member.
Okay, you guys hear that all right? Let me know in the chat. Anybody else that showed up in the meantime? I don't see anybody. Okay, sounds good. Says somnambulation, 5x5 Kiro Soldier. Yeah, different speakers. I did notice in the audio track that different speakers' volumes differ. It's either as close as they're sitting to the mic or something else. So our mileage may vary as we proceed.
This panel is entitled Banning Diversity, the War on DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
That was my bad.
This is a round table, unlike other presentations at C.W.A.
It looks like a relatively rectangular table.
This one is going to be a round table where the conversation is handled principally by all of us who are up here on the dais.
I wouldn't have assumed otherwise, but okay.
And our goal is to evaluate the driving factors behind the movement of banning DEI in certain parts of the country, as well as in our U.S. Senate, the House of Representatives.
Okay, sure, that too.
As well as our goal is to look at how the business, education, government, and nonprofit sectors are responding to. So what we're going to be doing is having a conversation, basically amongst ourselves, and then eventually it's going to be with all of you through your questions, which I'll tell you more about in a second.
And I think I cut that part out because then we went into the land acknowledgement and all that kind of thing.
Let me introduce who will be a part of this round table today.
Okay.
Sitting next to me, we have Yvonne Bissing, who her bio is presented fully in the program or online, but for right now, I'm just going to mention one or two things about her. She's a professor of healthcare studies and founding director of the Center for Childhood and Youth Studies and Center for Human Rights at Salem State University.
Okay, and apologies as always, I have to pause occasionally because YouTube, so. All right, health studies.
New Hampshire?
Yes, Massachusetts.
So, it's Salem, New Hampshire? No. I mean, admittedly, there's more than one Salem in America, but seriously, Salem, New Hampshire? Okay.
Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts.
I mean, whenever somebody talks about Salem, my first thought is Massachusetts, because witch trials, etc. But Salem, New Hampshire? Okay.
All right. She is on the Steering Committee for Human Rights Educators USA and Association for the Advancement of Science Human Rights Council. Next to Yvonne is Wisdom O'Cole, who is
Wisdom. Not a great name.
The National Director of the NAACP Youth and College Division.
Okay.
In his time at the NAACP, Cole has worked on campaigns around the cancellation of student debt, removing police from schools, and increasing voting access for young Black people.
I'm glad to see he's open to helping everyone of every particular stripe, so long as they're Black.
And then sitting next to Wisdom, we have Leo Glaze, who's been a history teacher for 18, although I thought we changed that to 20.
It's close enough. It's somewhere around there.
years, and is in his second year at Sierra Canyon School in Chatsworth, California.
Okay.
He is an independent equity and education consultant.
Independent equity education consultant. Oh, so, okay. Yeah, he's a DEI consultant. Yeah, all right.
Who helps teachers develop and enhance their courses of studies, assists school administrators in creating equitable policies and practices, and advises nonprofit organizations and corporations.
Okay, so basically he's a DEI consultant that helps organizations become acceptably racist. Okay.
So, to get us started with this roundtable, and again, this is going to be more of a roundtable, I'd like to ask each of our members up here, how is it that you think of DEI? What DEI and who's involved? What groups are involved with this? And we'll just do it down the line.
DEI in general, primarily corporate America, educational institutions. I mean, in corporate America, it's basically the CEOs that all got together after George Floyd's death to sign effectively a compact saying that they were going to spend billions of dollars on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion as a virtuous response to George Floyd, but also as a sort of Trojan horse method of getting ESG scores up in companies across the country and around the world so that BlackRock and Vanguard and other such entities would invest more in them. I mean, George Floyd and the pandemic were the best things ever to happen to the ESG DEI complex because they were the moral excuses for doing insane things. And how's that working out for them?
For right now.
Hi. Thank you for asking and for inviting me to come today and speak on this important topic and to try to give voice to people whose voices are not often heard.
Such as?
I'm a human rights advocate and have studied DEI and looked at it with curiosity because why is this so controversial? Because it's really part of human rights.
DEI is part of human rights. Okay.
There are the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There's the, which had its 75th anniversary. There's the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is having its 35th anniversary. And every country in the world has supported the child rights policy.
Every country in the world has supported the child's rights policy. Every country in the world? North Korea. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just kind of thinking of like, what are the worst countries in the world when it comes to human rights? North Korea, the Congo, Rwanda. I mean, all these countries. I'd be curious to find out all the countries. I know I'm being a stickler.
Except for one, and that's the U.S.
Oh, the U.S. Really? All the countries. North Korea. North Korea is more on the side of angels when it comes to children's rights than the United States? Really? I mean, if you say so.
And so I find it curious that we have moved to a point where we need to talk about DEI instead of human rights. Because
well, okay, well, what about discriminating people's job opportunities on the basis of their race has to do with human rights? How is that promoting human rights? In assessing people on the basis of what they are and not who they are? You tell me.
I find it curious that we have moved to a point where we need to talk about DEI instead of human rights, because really I think that human rights is the broader umbrella for it. But because people have not honored what or understood what human rights are, because most people don't have a human rights education, they never had a class in it, they don't know what it is.
I need a class in order to understand the fundamental concept of human rights. Oh, okay. But I mean, you know, North Korea is much better on this subject than the United States. I'm just going to keep harping on that point because I'm sure North Korea has signed on to a human rights pledge and childhood health or safety or whatever it was she was talking about. I'm sure.
And so what has happened is that the workforce is finding that their employees discriminate, that their policies are biased. And so there's this movement toward trying to create education on this issue of DEI.
Okay, I'm not quite sure which perspective she was coming at from. I'm assuming she's saying that the employees are racist or discriminatory that are not educated on DEI. Is that it? Because otherwise I'd be saying, yes, DEI is inherently discriminatory and employees are being made to believe that that is a good thing.
And so I think that it is an important topic to cover, whether we're talking about education, employment, healthcare.
Right.
And it all starts in the early years of how we learn to respect one another.
You know, you might want to lower your microphone a little bit or aim it down or something, because it's a very awkward angle. I know I'm being rhetorical here, but
Good morning, everybody.
oh wow, okay.
I said good morning, everybody.
Hi.
That's what I like to hear. Get some
Yeah, look at all the enthusiasm in the audience there. Yay.
energy in the room.
Uh-huh.
I think the question was, who is involved in DEI?
Yes.
So when I think of that question, I think that everybody here in this room and everybody in existence is involved in DEI.
Well, whether we like it or not, that is true.
What that means is that DEI is a framework, a structure that is helping to improve our thought processes, improve our structures, right? This is an opportunity to right the wrongs of the past.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is? To right the wrongs of the past by imposing the same kinds of policies and thoughts and philosophies of the past that led us down this road in the first place. Okay. I would like to see some proof that it is improving anything. It's been going on for years and years and years now. And yet I still see, and we have seen on this channel in just recent weeks and months, how they constantly have to try to argue for its efficacy. If it obviously works, if DEI is the golden goose, then you should have large swaths of eggs to show us. And that they're always saying, you know, it's like, well, we really have to prove this, or we have to show that, or we swears it brings better outcomes. Why do you have to fight so hard if it's so obvious?
An opportunity to ensure that those who come from marginalized communities have access. You know, when we think about the current moment in time that we're in, you know, I just woke up this morning and got a call from our legal team that we are potentially dropping a lawsuit against the state of Arkansas because they are making African-American studies or AP African-American studies illegal in the state of Arkansas.
Illegal in the state of Arkansas. African-American, well, hold on a second. African-American studies, Arkansas. Illegal. Let's see. Arkansas has pulled, I'm looking up on the Googles, guys. Arkansas has pulled approval for AP African-American studies from high school curriculum due to a new law that bans the teaching of certain topics. What topics? And I got to wonder, is it some kind of like reactionary kind of thing where it's like, oh, if you're going to do that, we're going to pull this just to make a splash? I'll have to look in a second. But first, holy cats. Alan Thyler, thank you so much, as always, for the Samurai #1 Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
There's a ranting monkey, Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate it. It's very generous of you. Hope you're having a good morning and hope you enjoy the show. Let's see. What was being banned? Sorry, guys, doing a little bit of a side here off the screen. Let's see. This is from the, if I can get the little pop-ups out of the way, the 4029 News. Whatever those. Arkansas Department of Education pulls approval for AP African American Studies course. This is from August 15th. Let's see. The AP African American Studies pilot course is not a history course and is a pilot that is still undergoing major revisions. Arkansas law contains provisions regarding prohibited topics, said Kimberly Mundell, Director of Communications for the Arkansas Department of Education. Quote, without clarity, we cannot approve a pilot that may unintentionally put a teacher at risk of violating Arkansas law, unquote. What is being shown there? Jacob Oliva, Secretary of the Arkansas Department of Education, told 4029 News the class could potentially run afoul of Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' executive order on teaching implicit bias as well as the LEARNS Act and other Arkansas laws. The Arkansas General Assembly passed the LEARNS Act during its session earlier this year. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders touted the plan during her response to the State of the Union speech in February. Among other things, the LEARNS Act bans the teaching of, quote, critical race theory, unquote. The law does not define critical race theory. Critical race theory is a way of thinking about America's history through the lens of racism. The law does not define critical race theory. Well, that is a failure there. If the law doesn't give a definition to it, then sure. So our speaker is being a bit hyperbolic because African American studies are not being made illegal. It's this that a school or a district or whatever here has pulled classes that may fall under an ill-defined element of a past law. So there you go. And yes, you have to lay down, what do you mean by critical race theory? Just saying CRT is illegal, it's far too ambiguous. But anyway.
You know, all across this nation, particularly this year, and I want to say this is nothing brand new, but we are seeing a targeted attack against DEI.
No, we're seeing a targeted attack against institutionalized racism. We're seeing a targeted attack on policies and organizations that would promote valuing people on the basis of their skin color or their gender or their orientation over their merit. That's what we're seeing attack on. And as well, and as far as education is concerned, teaching children that they need to evaluate themselves and others on the basis of their skin color in the quote-unquote historical context of those that came before them, hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, doing things that they had nothing to do with. That's the problem.
And I think when we are talking about what is necessary when it comes to DEI and the structures to support it, that requires all of us. You know, oftentimes when we are talking about DEI, we look to the Black people in the room, or we look to the women in the room, or we.
Why wouldn't we? Aren't they the marginalized voices that need to have their voices uplifted by those that have the microphone? Aren't those the individuals that possess the inherent knowledge and wisdom, no pun intended, but I'll take it, that will help inform and push us forward? Who should we be looking to when it comes to this subject then?
We look to the marginalized communities in the room. But DEI requires all of us putting in an investment to say, hey, we value diversity of thought in our university.
Whoa. Wait. Diversity of thought? Diversity of thought? You didn't say anything about thinking, ideas, perspectives. You said everything about skin colors and genders. You didn't say anything about diversity of thought. Wait, no, sorry. You don't get to make that move. Okay, you don't get to make that move.
We value diversity of practice in our business.
No, you're not. Really? Diversity of practice? I mean, if you were being serious, if you meant what you said, I would be on board. Like, yeah, diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of perspective, diversity of those things that are the intangibles of someone's independent merit, absent any consideration of their aesthetic qualities. I would be on board. That's not what you're promoting, though.
We value diversity of experiences in our social groups, right?
Sure we do. How much value does that have against the race dollar? How much value does experience and thought have against the gender dollar in this equation?
Right. We have to make sure that we address the value proposition when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and how it is helping to strengthen all of us. I'm sure Leo can talk more about this, but there's research that shows that all students benefit from having Black teachers.
Oh, yes, of course. I've heard this research quoted many times before. All students benefit from having Black teachers. It doesn't matter whether the teacher's any good, guys. It really doesn't matter if the teacher's any good. It just matters, do they have the right skin color? If they have the right skin color by, I don't know, just like, magical transference or something, academic achievement just is imparted upon students regardless. So remember, guys, hire teachers on the basis of what they look like and you'll have better educational outcomes.
Right? Diversity, equity, inclusion is helping us grow and build this nation to be the nation that it deserves to be.
Really? All right, if you say so. It's hard to argue with a guy named Wisdom, but I'm giving it a shot.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
I mean, having to follow up both of them makes it seem like a bit more of an echo chamber, but I mean, they are perfectly spot on. Like when it
I don't want to say that we're in an echo chamber, but I mean, we're kind of in an echo chamber, you know.
seem like a bit more of an echo chamber, but I mean, they are perfectly spot on. Like when it comes to DEI, like it should involve every single one of us. It is not about excluding anybody. It's about including everyone.
Is it? Is it really? Okay, well, then tell me about evaluating a straight white male primarily on his merit, experience, and education against a teacher being hired because of their skin color alone, as our previous speaker effectively recommended. Where would you fall on that decision, do I wonder?
And if you're in an institution or in a place or in a practice in which people feel like they are excluded, then unfortunately, that means that it's probably not being done to the best of its ability.
Okay, so if I'm in an organization that practices DEI and filters out job candidates and promotional opportunities to people on the basis of their race or gender, then... Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
But DEI should improve the lives of everybody. Everybody in this room should be made a better person, more whole person, a more complete person based off of the practices that are inclusive to everybody. I mean, the saying goes that like a low tide raises all boats. And really that is the essence of what DEI should do. So
No. A low tide raises all boats. I know. It was just a flub. I get it. It's poetically accurate.
So even people that have not been historically marginalized should benefit from having other people become more empowered, to have their ideas shared.
Oh, those who have not been historically marginalized. Well, is 4 years ago history now? Because I've been discriminated against because I was white 4 years ago. So have I been historically marginalized? Does that mean that I count now? Even those that haven't been? I don't know who that is at this point. Because DEI has covered the board. Whatever room there was left for institutionalized systemic discrimination to hit people of a particular demographic, DEI has solved for that problem. And it's been going on for years. So I think at this point, everyone has been historically marginalized. And even if you want to go so far back as to, the Irish or the Slavs, I think everybody's been historically marginalized, if you know what I mean.
Because even for people that have been historically empowered to, act on the behalf of others.
Are you just like doing everything you can not to say white people? Because it really sounds like you're doing everything you can to not say white people.
DEI should be able to be a lens or framework in order to open up their minds, get them more inclusive to other people that are around them, get them open to more ideas instead of the ideas that they've kind of grown around with.
Yeah, he really is doing everything he can not to say white people.
I would like to think that all of us would like to, be in an environment, be in a situation in which we get to learn from other people that have had different experiences from us. And if we do not want to be in those sorts of environments, then that is unfortunately a choice that you would be making for yourself.
I wonder if our speaker would feel like he could learn something from those that have not been historically marginalized. I wonder what kind of thoughts or reactions he would have to being subjected to a educational lecture by someone who has not been historically marginalized. Would he feel like he has anything to learn from such a person?
But I know working with kids for the past 20 years or so, every kid I would like to think has benefited from having the shared experiences of other people that have been around them.
Sure.
And it creates bridges. And
bridges? I love bridges. Bridges are my new favorite thing.
It doesn't build walls and build barriers when it's done the way that it should. It is unfortunate that we have kind of taken the word DEI, the acronym, and we've turned it into a bad word. And it's not, because it should be one that comes from a place of scholarship, because it is a discipline.
It is not a discipline. DEI is not a discipline.
And it should come from a place of love and caring, and it should come from a place of actionable and inaction steps.
It does not come from a place of love. It comes from a place of discrimination. Inherent discrimination on factors that say nothing of a person's character or ability. That has been proven over and over and over and over again. That's not love. That's not love any more than the laws of the South in the 50s were love. Unless you believe the laws of the South in the 50s were an expression of love, then I suppose maybe you would like DEI.
Thank you there, Leo. You know, as you know, I have a list of questions up here, but I'm going to sort of pick up on some of the things that you all have said just to help create that spirit of the round table.
Okay.
Absolutely. Most people don't have a clue that the UN declared the Declaration of Human Rights back in 1948.
You're right. I didn't know that date. I've heard of the Declaration of Human Rights before, yeah.
And so forth. And it doesn't surprise me that all of us recognize that there's something, but what's missing? How did this whole idea miss so many people that they think it's something that should be targeted right now?
What?
It's sort of interesting to me to hear all of us, we've never met before until this morning.
And it's amazing how on the same page you all are.
Have this way of understanding what the real soul of DEI is about. By the way, I do DEIB and belonging. So.
Oh! We all know what DE is about. Oh, by the way, I also add the B. I do belonging too. I'm actually better than the rest of you. Yeah, my you know, I almost just for a second there, just as he was saying that, I got a little song came to mind. I know might be a bit too much, but so just so you know, I'm better than you.
So what is it that you think has brought on this absence of understanding of wanting to have all peoples involved? Any thoughts just for us to just get it going?
Okay, so opposition to DEI is an absence of understanding. It's not that I have listened to and thought through everything I've been told by DEI advocates and practitioners over the last 7 years, let's say, and have reached the conclusion that all it is sugar-coated racism and discrimination. It's that I lack understanding. Okay, well, you know what? All right. Benefit of the doubt, it is entirely possible. I am not an academic. I am not a James Lindsay on this subject, as it were. So maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am. Maybe I just haven't watched the right talk. Maybe I haven't listened to the right speaker or been subjected to the right panel of speakers. Tell me what it is that I'm missing. What education do I lack to see that DEI is actually a good thing?
Sure, I'll step in.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
I think that there's much more that binds us together that ever separates us. And we all want to belong. Right?
Yes.
We want to belong to our communities, our school. We want to matter.
Yes.
And we want to have an opportunity to use our gifts and talents, because everybody has been gifted with an opportunity to be on this earth to do something that is unique and wonderful to make the world better.
Well, I mean, in sort of a pie in the sky idealistic way, perhaps, but yes, everyone seeks to belong to something, a meaning, a purpose. Most people are the hero of their own story, and they want to believe they're doing good. And most often they don't want to be doing whatever they're doing completely alone. So yes, it is a fundamental instinct of human beings to congregate and socialize. So what?
And so finding obstacles put forward is a real challenge. And
finding obstacles put forward is a real challenge. It's, you know what? It's not actually a challenge to find obstacles. All depends on what you're doing.
I think as we've moved into the heterogeneity of society,
What?
we are not a homogeneous society. We're not a
No,
homogeneous world. And
you're
this
right.
is a worldwide issue. It's not something that is just in Boulder or in the US. It is a worldwide issue where people are moving, they're intermarrying, we're sharing different religions, different cultures.
As has been going on for, I mean, millennia in a way. And yet you want everyone to be brought under the umbrella of a single social ideology as DEI. Are you going somewhere else with this?
Languages, and we are finding that we need to bond up together. But there's this issue of power differentials, right?
Of course, it's always power plus privilege.
And so people in power want to keep it, and the people who don't have it want a seat at the table.
And who is promoting DEI in this country? No, really. Who are the biggest and most vocal advocates for DEI in this country? CEOs and politicians. Okay, CEOs, politicians, and oftentimes directors or heads of universities and things. Okay, so who has the power and who is pushing this thing? So DEI is a voice for the powerless, yet who are the ones that are pushing it the most? The powerful. And why? Why? Is it money by any chance?
And if you've never been left out, then maybe you don't understand what the issues are. But if you've been left out, then you know front and center what the issues are.
Okay. What are the issues?
And it doesn't matter if it's race or gender.
Are you sure about that?
Or sexual orientation or handicap or religion. And I think that the diversity of the world is really a major cause. What do you think?
Okay. Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, I think when I think about this question, I think about the quote by Malcolm X. It says, "Education is our passport to tomorrow, to our future."
I think about Whitney Houston. I believe our children are our future. Okay.
You know, oftentimes when I think as an organizer, I think of a lot of this work through storytelling. When I was becoming a teacher in San Francisco, I worked at this school called June Jordan School for Equity.
June Jordan School for Equity already sounds suspect.
And a lot of the work that we were doing was working to integrate ethnic studies into the curriculum in San Francisco Unified School District.
Why? To what end?
As well as California. A lot of this was modeled after some of the work happening in Arizona. And there's a phenomenal film about the work to integrate ethnic studies there in Arizona. But a lot of the contention that happened around the ethnic studies curriculum was that they were afraid that the curriculum was making the kids mad.
Okay, well, simply putting a label on it doesn't tell me what's in the box. So what was being taught in these ethnic studies? Were these ethnic studies pushing the idea that the students need to evaluate themselves and others on the basis of skin color? By any chance? I know, I'm just guessing.
And angry and frustrated.
And why?
That them learning their own history.
No. Their own history? Wait. My history goes back to 1979. And my history does not encompass everything that occurred between now back to 1979. My history is my individual life. So a ethnic studies class is not going to teach me, quote unquote, my history. It's like you want to talk about the history of the United States, you want to talk about world history, you want to talk about the history of nations and this, that, and the other, fine. But whittling it down to, I'm going to teach you your history. This is what you have to feel responsible for or connected to directly just because it happened before you were here. And by the way, you share some elements of ethnicity with past actors. That might be problematic, especially to some parents.
And learning the history of America and learning the history of colonization and learning the history of how we got to where we're at today was making the kids angry.
And in what way was this being promoted to the kids? What were the kids being told about themselves in relation to this lesson? Do you want to give any voice to what the opposition had to say about it, what their major complaint was? Or are you just going to remain abstract on it?
But in addition to making the kids angry, it was empowering them. Young people were making strides to go to four-year universities, were getting involved in politics, were getting involved in local city government.
Wait. How do you get from one to the other? Making them angry? Making them angry in what way? And then, are you saying that these ethnic studies classes were encouraging school children to become activists? Because it almost sounds like, it does a little bit sound like you're pushing a particular political ideology onto children using the school system. I know. It sounds crazy.
When we are engaging in understanding of ourselves, right? And this is something that I've learned in my own story. We become more aware of our surrounding, become more aware of the wrongs that are happening in society, and you want to do something about it. And so to me, it's strategic that there is an effort to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion from the classroom, from the businesses, from our organizations, because when people are more aware about what is happening in society, when people are more quote unquote woke.
Quote unquote woke? Why are you putting quotes around it? It's a word that the left instituted to describe themselves. This seems to be very quickly forgotten history. The word woke was not some kind of pejorative that the right wing came up with. This is the compliment that far left progressive thinkers and activists gave themselves to differentiate their perspective from the rest of us who are just asleep. I mean, woke effectively means enlightened. This was a swath of people calling themselves enlightened compared to everybody else. And now it's come back around on them because over and over again, we see that the philosophies pushed by the woke, those who would have called themselves woke, are actually as backwards as the things they say they are against. But now we're at a point where he has to put woke in quotations because even he can't take it seriously. It's interesting.
From our organizations, because when people are more aware about what is happening in society, when people are more quote unquote woke about what is happening across this nation, they are galvanized to take action.
Yeah, usually badly informed and prejudicial action. I mean, have you? There's some videos going on right now. I am setting this stream in time by saying this. Right now, there is quite the protest movement taking place on campuses across the country. It really does remind me of the 2014-2015 campus protests against racism and so on and so forth. But now it's about the war in Gaza. And you have all these college kids who are screaming, "Intifada, Intifada." And there's more than a few videos out there of people saying, "Hey, what does Intifada mean?" to these college kids. And you get silence, blank expressions. It's just, lemmings jumping off the cliff one to another and going along with the flow because they feel like they're empowered. They feel like they're doing something, that they're changing something. What we're seeing on campuses right now is, in part, if not in whole, the result of these DEI educational practices and making activists. And it's all a joke.
Right. And when people take action, they change the systems of power. And that is what is happening.
It is. That is what is happening. I mean, if you infest all high-level educational institutions with a philosophy of skin color over merit, you will change the system. You will. But not for the better.
Folks are changing the systems of power, and people don't like that. There are key people who like to keep things as it is.
Such as, or say, such as whom?
And want to see certain outcomes when it comes electorally, when it comes politically, when it comes socially. And I think that when we are targeting diversity, equity, inclusion, we are purposely trying to keep people within certain social classes.
Uh-huh. And DEI is not trying to keep people in certain social classes or to remove people from certain social classes. Uh-huh.
So I think what is important in this time is to recognize how we are combating this.
Okay.
You know, something that we worked at on the NAACP was last summer, which was a very hot summer, was the gutting of affirmative action.
The gutting of affirmative action. Yeah, that was a big deal last year. It really was. It really was. I celebrated it at the time, and I'm so glad that it happened now. Okay. How are you combating that?
Right. And how affirmative action on a federal level was to support and give access to those who didn't have access to the ivory tower, to the four-year universities.
That's not what affirmative action did. That's not what affirmative action did. It discriminated on the basis of skin color. It set merit aside and put up skin color as a value factor in educational opportunities, and discriminated against other people on the basis of their skin color so they could not have those same educational opportunities. Maybe you don't know how affirmative action worked.
And so part of what we had to do in that moment in time is challenge all of our states, challenge all of our universities to commit to diversity no matter what.
No matter what? What, even against violating constitutional law and the Title VI and the 14th Amendment? Really? Okay, well, they're going to be paying some big bills in legal fees.
So what does that mean?
I don't know.
That means ensuring that there are key benchmarks and markers that you are doing within your university to ensure that young people of color have access to those spaces.
So setting racial quotas is that legal by any chance? And I mean legal now, questionable when affirmative action was still in place, but now that it's been taken out of the process, under Title VI and the 14th Amendment, is that legal?
That means ensuring that you are recruiting and employing teachers of color to be a part of those universities, to be role models to those young people.
Is hiring people on the basis of their skin color legal in America under Title VI and the 14th Amendment? Is it legal under Title VII? So these are your strategies for combating the destruction of affirmative action, is to set racial quotas within schools and then have hiring policies that focus on skin color. That is your answer. Okay.
That means eliminating barriers to higher education, such as standardized testing. You know, there are a plethora of standards that we can put in place to ensure that we are including diversity, equity, inclusion, but part of it takes a coordinated effort in recognizing what is happening right now.
So you want to eliminate standards, hire people on the basis of their skin color, and set racial quotas. Great. Sounds great.
We'll get to questions. We'll get to questions later. That we're going to use the note card.
Sorry, I don't know if you could hear that. The guy in the front said something to the effect, "Were kids actually getting angry or something?" So he was asking them for more context. You know what? If we don't get to the question and answer time, I might have to do a part 2 on this, because I would love to hear something from the audience on what their reaction is to some of the things that the speakers are saying.
Okay. No, kids were, you know, there's a way you can talk about it, because I like my kids angry. I like my kids frustrated.
You like your kids angry. You like your kids frustrated. What?
Because we have to recognize what's really actually happening in society.
So you like agitating your students towards agreeing with you on your political ends. Okay.
I think they were using that as a ploy to remove that curriculum, which actually ended up getting removed from the state of Arizona during that period of time.
Okay, I honestly, I'm getting very confused. Okay, why were students getting angry? Were they getting angry at the notions you were putting before them? Were they getting angry at the actions of people in the past? Were they getting angry at being effectively accused of complicity, yeah, with past historical. What was the source of the anger? I don't know how to put this into my mind correctly unless I know the context of what you're talking about. But either way, you like your kids angry. You like them frustrated. And you're an educator. Okay, I'm backing up a little bit.
Because we have to recognize what's really actually happening in society. I think they were using that as a ploy to remove that curriculum, which actually ended up getting removed from the state of Arizona during that period of time, because they were afraid about what was happening.
You think? No, what was their argument? Not what you think. I mean, your opinion is fine, but what was the justification for the removal of the ethnic studies curriculum in Arizona? Whether you agree with it or not, what was their argument? What was their concern? What points did they make? And then knock those points down with your better argumentation. That's how you approach this, not just sort of hand wave it away and say, oh, they were wrong. Well, maybe they were wrong, but on what basis were they wrong? You're an educator, correct?
But that was a way in which they were getting and galvanizing voters, particularly white women, around anti-CRT issues.
So if we could, we're going to hold off until we get to the questions. And if we on the panel could also hold off on responding. So
you're already screwing everything up, guys. This is supposed to be a round table, not an all table. We have to exclude some people from the conversation until we're ready. But we're all about inclusion.
We'll go from there.
To sort of piggyback off of that, I mean, I've taught for too many years to count.
Yeah, it was either 18 or it was 20 from previous.
But one of the things that I basically tell all of my parents during back to school night is that if your kids walk away from learning American history and it makes them feel good about themselves or feels good about the history, I probably have not done a good job of teaching it.
Oh, okay. So your aim is to make your students feel bad about the United States. Okay.
And that doesn't mean that you can't love America.
I think that actually is exactly what it means.
But it does also mean that you should also have an open and critical eye to this.
I agree. There should be a critical eye and there should be skepticism when it comes to what you are told by people who are in positions of authority. I agree, which is in part why I'm here.
Yvonne mentioned the idea of like having a seat at the table, and that does make tons of sense. And in a lot of cases, like when we think about that table metaphorically for America, that table was not built by everybody.
It was not built by everybody. You're right. It was built by a select few. Yeah, it's true.
That table was built by one specific group of people.
Well, yes, if you mean like, and I know I'm not being historically accurate down to the pinpoint here, but let's say the Constitutional Congress, that kind of thing.
I mean, even when we get to like the historical context of it, and Thomas Jefferson says that all men are created equal, we've now tried to change the meaning of those 5 words. But in essence, when he wrote them to literally mean that all colonial men in America were equal to all colonial men in England, and that was it.
Yeah, and you know what the beauty of the Constitution is? We can change it, and it has changed over time. If you can believe it, things hundreds of years ago were different than they are now, and things have changed since then. So what does Thomas Jefferson matter today? I mean, insofar as what he thought the Constitution should mean. I mean, for historical context, sure, but as an active, element of our life today, who cares what Thomas Jefferson thought about the words he was writing down? We have refined them, presumably, to make a more perfect union. So all men created equal has been expressed over and over again and refined in things like Title VII and Title VI and the 14th Amendment, which you guys just seem to not give a rip about in saying you're going to defy the Supreme Court and still try to institute affirmative action policies, just not calling them affirmative action policies. Maybe I don't know. I'm just an English major.
Not women, not LGBTQ plus community members.
Yeah, you're right. Back then, they weren't thinking about those things in the way that we think about them today. So what? Things have changed. Isn't that at least in part a mark in our favor as a country that things have changed?
Not African Americans, not people that were enslaved, not indigenous folks. He was literally talking about white colonial men being equal to white Englishmen in England, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it back in 1776 or 1779 when the Constitution was finally ratified. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, back then. Is back then now by any chance?
Us trying to now go back and try to change the meaning of that term shouldn't necessarily take away from the intention of the way that he wrote it.
Why not? Why not take the meaning of those words in a literal truth rather than what Jefferson meant? Why not? Why not make them better? Why not make them better reflect reality and our desires as a nation? What?
And when it comes to having a seat at that table, I think what a lot of people would like to hope for when it comes to DEI work is the idea that it's okay to kind of let that table go.
What?
And that in this sort of new beginning that we can build a table together with a bunch of other people's input on how to actually build that table and have it make sure that it is bigger, that it can actually support other people, and that it can actually last for the test of time.
Yeah. And what are the table legs made out of? Merit or aesthetics?
And so having a historical framework for DEI is important because this country was not built using DEI as a framework for anything.
Thank goodness for that.
Our Constitution has enslavement baked into it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you, Vercingetorix. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. And this is apparently your 20th super on a live stream. Wowzers. This happens in every Second Amendment argument, too. These people rely on your ignorance of the founders' thoughts to pretend they meant something else. Thomas Jefferson didn't like slavery. The Second Amendment is about citizens, not National Guard. Well, at the same time, for whatever the primary historical context of what the founders meant, it is informative, but it is not vital to how we have evolved it over time, except to see that we have evolved it. I mean, the important element of this, and this happens in so many other conversations and discussions and panels and things that I've looked at in the past, is that people want to point to the way things were a long, long time ago and say that outside of historical context, that they are somehow informing behavior today, that the laws of the 1800s are reflective of how we live today. And as a warning to the bad old days, they are valuable. To see the evolution of thought and society in order to incrementally make us a better society, a more fair society, a more free society, they are important benchmarks to look at in order to compare and contrast how things were to how things are, and also to see how perhaps there are things that we can do more in the future to make things better. But to live right now in a complaint about something that has absolutely nothing to do with you today and hold people to account for it today in things they had nothing to do with, gosh, I can't imagine why that way of thinking might have been just a little bit annoying in the state of Arizona. If this is what you're wrapping the title of ethnic studies around, I think I understand why people were getting a little peeved at it in one form or another.
Our Constitution does not include, the benefits and rights of women whatsoever.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The 14th Amendment, just as one example, the 14th Amendment. Just go ahead, the 14th Amendment. Right? Or when women were given the vote. I mean, the Constitution does contain these things. Now it does. It didn't back then, maybe, or maybe there were loopholes that were being exploited, but are you talking about the old Constitution? Or are you talking about the Constitution as we live under it today and everything that has occurred since then? The Civil Rights Movement, the 14th Amendment. We can keep going. There's plenty of stuff in there that guarantees rights to women because they are American citizens. That is the one sort of unifying theory to the whole thing. It doesn't matter what your race or gender is. If you're an American citizen, if you're a United States citizen, you have certain inalienable rights under law. And you have for decades, if not hundreds of years. What are you talking about?
We've had to add on amendments on top of that.
Yes, because the Constitution is a living, malleable, amendable document. So if something is changed to the Constitution that gives rights to a demographic that didn't previously have rights, then the Constitution contains rights for that demographic. The Constitution provides equal rights to women. It does, right now and for years. What are you talking about?
But when you have a group of men that were able to kind of sit down, in Philadelphia, 100, 250 years ago and come up with a document, it shouldn't be surprising that they wrote a document that benefited them because, they were the only people that they were getting information from.
Okay, you know what? Tell you what, I will stipulate to that. That the men in Philadelphia 200 years ago, whatever it is, they were sitting there and were thinking about how can we benefit ourselves, only us men in this room. How can we only benefit us? Boy, oh boy, they were selfish, they were greedy, they were short-sighted, they were racist slave owners. Oh my gosh, they were terrible. What have we done with this terrible idea? What have we done with this terrible idea in the time since? Obviously nothing, because whatever's said in those papers back in 1776 up to 1779 is exactly how we operate today. I mean, obviously. Hey, thank you again, Ivor Singatorix, very much. If I change the definition of a word, I get to change how the laws written before that change are applied today, e.g., well-regulated racism woman. Yeah, it just magic thinking. The thoughts and the ideas of 200, 300 years ago are the same things now. And I'm going to be angry about it now. And to what end? To what end? In just ignoring everything that's occurred since. I can only guess, holding people today to account for things done by men who are long dead. I mean, so what is your point? Is this what you get across to your students?
And so while I don't necessarily blame them for creating the document that they did.
You don't necessarily blame them for creating. Why did they create the document that they did? Who were they opposing? What kind of actions were they fighting against to create the document that they did? Can you find any kinship in spirit or in purpose with the men who created the document that they did in opposing the force that they were opposing? Can you see any reason why they might have done that? Under what threat were they when they were doing this? What were they risking in doing this? You want to give any historical context to that by any chance?
It's also up to us to be able to look at that document and look at the people and look at the time in which they wrote it and say, you know what? This should be changed.
It has been changed. You just said it had been changed with the amendment process. It has. So what is your point?
Because this country has changed and it has made steps.
Oh, it has? Well, just a second ago, I thought it hasn't altered at all since 1776.
It probably has not made as many steps as it could and that it should.
Oh, you know what? I'll agree with you there because it is a living, evolving document. There's always room for improvement, right? Deliberative, incremental improvement. And guess what one of those improvements was recently? As we move through time and adjust our thinking about things. You know what one of the greatest improvements was in recent memory? The elimination of affirmative action. Coming to the defense and galvanizing Title VI and the 14th Amendment. You know, those additions to that document that were added over the course of time to make things better and fairer for people. If you actually read the texts of those documents, read the 14th Amendment, read Title VI, read what their intention is in having been created. And they were supported and they were affirmed by the Supreme Court last year. And yet I have a distinct feeling that you have a problem with that.
But we can do that if we decide that we can, envision a new future that in some ways kind of recognizes that past for what it was, but also thinks about the ideas of how we can, reimagine and make a new future with all of us included in that process.
Yeah, okay. Enter the civil rights movement. Enter a whole bunch of white guys voting for new laws that impose new equities upon the country. You're a history teacher, right?
And so I think that part is important. And when it comes to like the sort of like war idea on DEI, it comes from the fact that people would like to hold on and maintain power.
Hold on to and maintain power. Yeah, you're right. The DEI apparatus want to hold on to and maintain power. They want to maintain the power of guilt, of racialized guilt. That's what they want to hold on to. And they are flailing about trying to maintain it because more and more people are seeing DEI for what it is. Garbage.
And do I understand that basic logic? I do.
Oh,
it's scary to want to let go. It's scary to have to sacrifice something for the common good of other people.
Yeah.
But that is what makes, the human condition what we are.
Oh, okay. And whose power was being thwarted when those old white guys in Philadelphia were writing that argument again? Was it the power of other white people? And what were those white people threatening to do to those other white people back in Philadelphia back in 1776? Anything?
And that's what should actually make us, better than other species of animals that are out there, because we actually are sentient beings that have that ability to do so. And so when it comes to DEI, part of it is, what are we willing to sacrifice? And a part of it is also, what are we willing to do to create a better future for everybody and not just a certain group of people?
Okay, well, are you willing to sacrifice the mental well-being of your students? And obviously you are, because you like to see them agitated and angry and everything else. Or was that the other guy? My brain is so confuzzled right now with what I just heard. It was all over the place.
Oh,
Really? That's an applause line? Okay.
Well, picking up on your point, Leo.
There was a point?
These are different times. I mean, Bob Dylan sang about this years ago, right? The times.
Whoa, who's this? We just had an addition to the panel. I don't know who this lady is. I thought it was just the four of them. Okay, now we're talking about Bob Dylan? What?
Point, Leo. These are different times. I mean, Bob Dylan sang about this years ago, right? The times they are changing. And if you can't get on, then get out of the way.
Right?
And so I think there's a misunderstanding of what DEIJ is, or it's also called Jedi.
Oh, God. Everybody is just showing off how awesome they are. No, we start off with DEI, we go for DEIB, now we're going for Jedi, but we're just going across the entire panoply of the DEI landscape. Great, yeah. What is the difference between DEIB, Jedi, and DEI? What is the difference? How are these things different from one another, fundamentally? If you're going to keep name dropping these different alternatives to it, there must be some kind of enhanced difference. That one is better than the other or more specialized than the other. Why bring that up? Just to show off?
Right, for you Star Wars folks. All right. So with that, we're talking about diversity of everybody, right?
Diversity of everybody. Uh-huh.
Right? It's not just one group of people. We're
Are you sure about that? Because it sure sounded like it was one particular racial demographic that needed attention earlier in your own talk.
talking about race, we're talking about gender, we're talking about religion, ability, social class, ways of thinking.
No, ways of thinking. Ways of thinking. If you really want to talk about valued diversity, that should be the number one and no others. But it's not. You predicated it with a whole bunch of irrelevant nonsense.
All right. So we're talking about including everybody.
Are you?
So if you are not able to use the bathrooms because you're in a wheelchair, that's an equity and an inclusion issue.
Yes. Shall we look at the Americans with Disabilities Act? I mean, I don't know if you'd like to acknowledge that there has been a legal movement and a legal modification in the past that has attempted to address accessibility for disabled persons. Do you want to acknowledge that?
All right. We're talking about being able to have all of us having a seat at the table.
What if I haven't earned a seat at the table? What if I have absolutely no place at the table because I have nothing to offer? What if I do not actually possess the merit to put me at the table in the first place? We don't all deserve a seat at the table. We deserve the opportunity to earn a seat at the table. Do you want to modify that by any chance?
And so we're looking at communities that governments often do not have representation by everybody.
Such as?
And my specialty is looking at young people of all types.
That sounds creepy the way you put it.
And that young people are almost never represented.
Because young people are stupid. Young people don't know anything. Up until the point where you're 18, at least in the United States, you really don't count for a whole heck of a lot because you have not lived a life. You cannot cognate things the same way as an adult can. Presumably, mileage may vary with your adult, but that's because young people don't know anything. That's why. And I tell you what, I was just looking at this the other day because I did a video, a scripted TEDx from long ago called "The Wisdom of Second Graders," and the idea that children cannot sign contracts, they cannot enter into agreements, they cannot drink, they cannot drive, they can't own a gun, and so on and so forth under a certain age, and yet there's a contingent that has been prevalent for many years now that somehow believe that 9-year-olds have a nuance to their thinking and their perspective on the world that informs them and thus must control the adults about their gender identity and other such things. This came up on Twitter the other day or something, and it reminded me of that video where you have this very sketchy family therapist talking about how a second grader could tell his parents that he's actually a girl and them going along with it rather fervently. Anyway, you were saying?
On boards of directors or...
Wait. Not children on board. You weren't suggesting that children should be on boards of directors, were you?
Not have representation by everybody. And my specialty is looking at young people of all types. And that young people are almost never represented on boards of directors or consulted to do product development.
Children are never consulted on product development. Are you sure about that? Are you sure there has never been a focus group in product development that involved children? But you want children represented on boards of directors, do you? Represented by whom? What?
And so we're talking about making room for everybody. And we
even minors in business decisions on boards of directors. Why?
We all benefit by one another.
We do?
So I think that you're right about we really do need to have a different paradigm.
We need to have a different paradigm where you're leading a literal children's crusade in corporate America. Best of luck, I guess.
And people need to understand that DEI is not a dirty word. It's part of human rights, and it's that which bonds us together, not that separates us or makes one group more powerful than another. Like my right is better than your right.
Have you obviously have not been paying attention to DEI rhetoric the entire time. On what element is someone's value measured in DEI? Primarily, on what element is someone's value measured in DEI? Do you want to try that again?
Hold on for a second.
Please do, because she was going all over the place.
Have to bring in one of our new not new, but a panelist.
Okay, I was wondering when they were going to get to the new lady, because I was like, I thought this was a 4-person round table, even though there's only 4 corners anyway.
And if you wouldn't mind just saying your name for us, and we'll include you in all of our discussion
Oh, inclusion.
here.
My apologies. I'm coming all the way from South Denver,
South Denver. Okay.
and the traffic
Aye.
horrific, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, my name, this does say Van Ross, but I'm actually Von Ross.
Okay.
And I am the co-creator of the Museum for Black Girls.
The Museum for Black Girls. Okay.
I've been in education with Emily Griffith Technical College for over 20 years.
Uh-huh.
I serve as vice president of the VET, and I also sit on the Common Course numbering system
Good. Okay.
for Colorado.
The Common Course numbering system or the Common Cores numbering system? I didn't quite get that part.
In fact, is there something going on campus now around the museum's work?
Absolutely. So for those of you who do not know,
Uh-huh.
CU has a museum on campus.
Uh-huh.
It's a 5-minute walk from here. It's free to the public. I would highly suggest you go and visit it.
Okay. I didn't know this was here. Otherwise, I would have probably cut out the introduction and get back to the discussion, but c'est la vie.
It's beautiful. And yes, we do have an exhibit there.
Thank
Great.
you.
Okay.
So, getting lots of great questions. And so, for our roundtable, I want to just throw this one in because there seems to still be some questions about what's going on, especially when 2 of us are talking about the human rights. I think we all are talking about human rights.
I don't think you're talking about human rights at all.
So the question here is, are we hindering the advancement of human rights by using labels such as DEI, JEDI, etc.? And
Well, no, the entire endeavor is actually counter to human rights because you're reducing people down to aesthetics rather than individuals and valuing them on that basis. But sure, I guess technically all of it is hindering human rights. So
I think we've already begun to respond to that. It's
Have
not
you?
about the separation. But if you just say,
if it's not about the separation, then why do you have different terms for it? If it's not about the separation, then why do you have DEIB? Why do you have JEDI? Why do you have DEIA or IDEA, right? Or bridge or any of this other stuff? If it's not about the separation, then why keep touting how special you are with a different perspective on it?
say just a few more words and we'll bring you in, Vaughn.
Yes. So, when they brought the idea of should we ban this, I was like, well, am I for it? Am I against it?
I don't know.
Well, kind of both.
You're kind of both. You're both for and against banning DEI practices. Okay.
Because yes, as you would say, we are all humans. And if we could learn to embrace the human race.
Then we do away with DEI because it differentiates people on the basis of aesthetics. I like where you're going.
I believe that we would be much better off.
Uh-huh.
And putting labels on things sometimes,
Yeah.
our perception of what that label is can be skewed in so many ways, right?
It can. So what is your perception of DEI?
And so because what separates us is what makes us unique. It's what makes life interesting, right?
Right.
if you went into Walmart and you only had one candy bar to choose from, I'd have a fit.
I will not comment.
If I went into, if I went into Saks and I could only choose one pair of shoes, I would lose my mind.
Wow. How terrible a potential for you.
So, yeah, that diversity is what we need. We need it, right?
Yeah, but based on what? Based on what? I mean, here's the thing. The diversity that DEI is promoting, she wasn't here for this, so maybe she missed it, but we had that one speaker saying that all students benefit from having a black teacher, right? So it really doesn't matter what kind of black teacher you have, just have a black teacher, according to our speaker. How is that any different than just having one kind of candy bar? It doesn't matter if the candy bar is any good. You just have one kind of candy bar. I mean, that should be satisfactory, right? Well, no, it's not satisfactory because, like you said, you want diversity. You want variety. You want choice. You want the ability to weigh and evaluate whether or not you want something versus not based on the quality of the thing, correct? Okay, that's not what DEI is promoting. But maybe our speaker, who sounds like she's on the fence about some things, understands that.
It makes life so much more interesting when we're all included. And when you talk about including everyone, wherever, in my opinion, wherever inequality exists, whether it be in politics, social media, community, it's unfair, right?
If it is an actual inequality, but here's the problem. More often than not, I have presenters equating disparity with inequality. That simply a difference in things equals an injustice. That is not a truth. That is not a fact. You have to prove that out. The space between two bars on a chart does not necessarily mean a crime is being committed. And that's what we keep ending up at over and over again.
We all deserve the same opportunity.
Yes, equal opportunity, not equal outcome.
And I really do believe that we all need to jump on the human side of who we are, embrace that.
What?
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. We're all humankind, right?
Oh, dude. Whoa, that's like so deep, man.
And learning to be kind, learning to be tolerant of other cultures and other ways and understanding. I mean, that's the variety and the pizzazz of life.
Okay. I'm gonna let her finish her piece here, and then I'm probably gonna call it because I'm getting down to the hour-and-a-half mark, and I don't know if I can take much more of this.
And so I think those labels do they hinder us. I believe the intent was well-meaning, but unfortunately, I believe that it was not well executed.
Okay, so just for reference's sake, I'm at 26:07 on the video. I might have to do a follow-up on this because I am morbidly curious to see how they answer questions as they get them in from the audience. See if the audience puts them on the spot on anything else. But at least for the sake of this, we've had an introduction to all 5 speakers now and had them speak their piece on different things. I'll take a minute here to see what you guys have to say on the subject. And if you're listening to this in the future, by all means, leave a comment below of what you thought. Scrolling up a bit to see if I have anything here. Let's see. Some Nemnial Nation. Excuse me. Then, by the transitive property, life is more interesting with racists and bigots, right? We can't have ideas that you disagree with and then label as being bigoted or racist, because that would just be bad. I guess. Anyway. Tier Alexander, Scribe Sunday Stream is an endurance test. I confess, it's true. It's as much for me than it is for you. I mean, at least I'm sort of obligated to keep going for at least an hour and a half. You guys can click out whenever you want. You have the escape hatch. You have the advantage I don't. In fact, you have more power than I do, and thus, in some ways, I suppose I have to oppose you because you have that power. You have the power I lack. How dare you? Let's see. What else do we have? Let's see. Some emulation again. Should be J-I-B-E-D. Jibed, meaning to be in accordance with. Her opinion. Oh, jibed. Jibed. I see. Oh, okay. You know what? I like that. Jibed. Yeah. I still want to go for Debbie. D-E-B-I. I think that's the best one. Forget Jedi. It's too attached to Star Wars. But Debbie. Just call it diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion, and make a little happy cartoon mascot for Debbie. She's like, I don't know, like a customer service rep or something. She's got a little headset on and like curly hair and just Debbie. And you can make the caricature just black lines on a white background. So you can't tell. She's totally inclusive. You can sort of project whatever race or whatever you want onto the character, but just keep her neutral, right? Debbie. She's here to help. Debbie. Dear Alexander Scribe, I will suffer with you. You don't abandon friends to their fate. Oh, that's very nice of you. Very nice of you. Adam Casfield, the power of Grayskull. I wish. Man, when I was a kid, I had the He-Man sword. I had the He-Man chest plate. I got like the kit that had like the sword. It was a double-sided sword. It was silver on one side and I think like purple on the other, so that you could pretend you're either He-Man or Skeletor. And then I had the Skeletor mask, which was like this yellow plastic thing. I got pictures of me in the Skeletor mask somewhere. If I find that, I'll post it somewhere. But anyway, yeah, I had the whole He-Man set. And man, I wished I had the power of Grayskull when I was a little kid. Raise my arm up, have the lightning come down, and like, yes, I'm going to fight Skeletor. Even though really I wanted to like live at Snake Mountain because I thought Snake Mountain was cool. My friend across the street had the Snake Mountain play set, and man, was I jealous. It had a voice changer. Oh gosh, back when I was a kid, that was so amazing. It has a little microphone thing. He'd like, hello, I am Skeletor. And he'd make it all sound creepy and stuff. Oh. You know what my Castle Grayskull was? You know what my first Castle Grayskull was? My parents couldn't find or afford the actual Castle Grayskull set. I know. I mean, my family was white, guys. Can you believe it? My family could not afford Castle Grayskull. So you know what my dad did? And I love him. I love him for this to the ends of time. He took a cardboard box and he spray painted it a green-gray color, and he drew on a skull face. He cut out a drawbridge and hooked it up with little strings on it. And he put little flags made of toothpicks and paper along this top, and he cut out the backside. And so it was my 4-year-old Castle Grayskull. That's the Castle Grayskull I got when I was 4 years old, and I loved it. It was amazing. I could take my figures, I could go behind the castle and have them come in and out of the drawbridge and fight inside and stand on top of the castle, and it was great. Best thing ever. Ingenuity and imagination. I loved it. Eventually, I did get the actual Castle Grayskull set, but I tell you what, I probably had way more fun with the 4-year-old Castle Grayskull than I did with the 5-year-old Castle Grayskull, or whenever I got the actual thing. And all the same, I still wanted Snake Mountain. Oh, that was so cool. Snake Mountain. Let's see. I wouldn't watch these without Scribe. I would feel concerned for you, Derek, if you voluntarily watch these things of your own accord and alone. I'm here for informational purposes only. Informational purposes only. Debbie will be a 49-year-old fat man in a way. Probably. Shadowclaw, Scarbelight, these people did not realize Washington released his slaves at the time of his death. Well, yeah, but you see, he had slaves in the first place. So everything that he ever did is completely illegitimate on that basis. And we should all feel ashamed for it, I guess. And Matt says, Scribe still has PTSD from that. From which? From this entire endeavor? Or not having Snake Mountain? Probably the latter, right? Yeah, I've got post-traumatic Snake Mountain disorder. Anyway, everybody, I'm going to call it here. If I didn't get to your comment again, please leave it below. Appreciate it when you do. I'll try to respond if there's a question there. I have something to say to it. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, I, of course, forgot, as I often do, to create a link to the Discord server. So let me do that right now. If you're not already a member of the Discord server, you can become one relatively easily through this link I'm going to put in the chat box right now. It is good for 1 day. Yes, this is how I keep the bots out and make sure that only the true fans, the only fans, get in to the Discord server. And so what you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word tells me that you are not a bot and actually watch the show and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. Today's secret word is... Oh, what's a good secret word? Debbie. Yep, just say hello, Debbie. And I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, you can find me here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks, sometimes actual TED Talks. It all depends on the day, for information and enlightenment. I call it being woke. And thank you again, Alan Thyler. Holy cow, for the thank you, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat.
Whoa, wee. Whoa, whoa.
Oh, there's a tailed featured Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Alan. Really appreciate it. Also, if you guys would click the like button on the way out if you like the stream. If you didn't like the stream, and I can see why there might be reasons for that, please click the dislike button. I appreciate the interaction either way. Please share this stuff out on social media. In fact, if there's a creator out there that you appreciate that you don't think is getting enough attention, nothing helps more than letting people know that they exist. So if you like this kind of thing from me or anybody else, please share that stuff out there. And as far as shout outs, because I'm trying to make shout outs a regular feature on here, I'd like to shout out Clobberin' Times on YouTube. Check out Clobby on YouTube. He goes over Star Trek and comic books and has a bunch of nerds on there to talk about Star Trek and comic books and different things on a regular basis. He has his shows pre-scheduled like days or weeks in advance. So you can hit the notification button on any particular subject that you like, because then you'll have a bunch of nerds to listen to and or interact with about nerdy stuff like Star Trek and comic books. Also, I want to shout out Geary Kissel and the Pop Culture Minefield. Take a look at Pop Culture Minefield on YouTube. They also cover movies and comic books and entertainment news and all types of stuff. And also, for those of you that might be veterans or have a veteran in your life, they also go over veterans issues, looking at movies about war, and covering movies about that, talking about veterans issues. He also has a comic book project that is thankfully fully funded called Vindicated Incorporated. I interviewed Gary about it a couple of weeks ago. You can find it on my playlist for Familiar with the Matter. Okay, is that enough plugging for everybody? I think I've plugged enough. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe's pinned at the top of the chat box, thank you so much for your generosity. Really do appreciate it. Hope you're all having a good Sunday. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I hope you have a good week ahead of you, and especially month end for those of you that have to deal with the month end billing stuff, because I certainly do. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.